Good morning, everyone. This is the end of the March Uchiyama Roshi's memorial session. He died March 13th, I think, 1998. 1998. So 25 years ago. So this year we have many anniversaries. This is the 25th anniversary of my teachers passing away. And in June, we'll have a 20th anniversary of Sanshin. And I'll become 75. And I'm going to retire. So we'll have a ceremony for my retirement and Hoko's step up. So we are busy. Anyway, I have been talking on chapter 8 of this book, Opening the Hand of Thought. Since this is based on Uchiyama Roshi's final lecture at Antaiji, so it's a kind of suitable to talk on his teaching on this memorial day. Today, I'd like to talk about 3 paragraphs, if possible. From the second paragraph of page 147. Let me read these 3 paragraphs. If you think the most important thing in your system of value is something made up in your head, you are totally wrong. What is most valuable isn't fabricated in our heads. It arises when we open the hand of thought. This Open the Hand of Thought became the title of this book. Opening the hand of thought is itself what is most valuable. This is the meaning of practicing Buddha Dharma only for the sake of the Buddha Dharma. There are too many teachers who don't make any effort to transmit the Buddha Dharma only for the sake of the Buddha Dharma. They attract people by dangling some attractive carrot in front of them and then claim that by practicing Zazen, you can acquire great powers. But that is not true Zazen. No matter how hard you practice it, true Zazen is not practiced for the sake of some value promoted by desire. Anything our discriminating minds believe to be valuable is not of absolute value. Letting go, opening the hand of thought, is the reality of life. And it is that reality of life which should be most valuable to us. In Paul's letter to the Romans, he says, let God be true, though every man be false. A lot of people get very uncomfortable when I quote anything from the Bible. But important sayings are important. And this one is certainly true. In reference to our practice, everything we make up in our head is false. Opening the hand of thought should be our standard of absolute value. We should respect the Buddha Dharma of letting go of thought as being most valuable. So it is important not to practice for the sake of sentimental emotions or worldly ideas. In this chapter 8, for his final teaching at Antaiji, he talks about 7 points that was important for him while he was the abbot of Antaiji for 10 years. And I'm still talking about the first of the 7 points. That is, in 140, it said, study and practice the Buddha Dharma only for the sake of the Buddha Dharma, not for the sake of emotions or worldly ideas. So in this section, he has been talking about what is Buddha Dharma and what is the meaning of practice Buddha Dharma only for the sake of Buddha Dharma and not for the sake of emotions or worldly ideas. So these 3 paragraphs is a kind of conclusion of this point. We should practice Buddha Dharma for the sake of Buddha Dharma, not for the sake of our satisfaction based on our desires. The first paragraph I read, he said, if you think the most important thing in your system of value is something made up in your head, you are totally wrong. This is an important point because what we think is not highest value. The word most important thing is a translation of Uchiyama Roshi's expression, 最高価値. Saiko means highest, most, ko means high, so highest. Saiko means highest, or ultimate, or absolute. And kachi is value. So he's thinking, and he's talking, and I'm talking, and I'm thinking. So this is what I'm thinking now. This is what he thought, and what I'm talking is what I'm thinking. So please be careful, what I'm talking, what he's writing, and what I'm talking is not absolute or ultimate value. Uchiyama Roshi is thinking, and I'm talking about what is absolute value. So when we study Dharma, Buddha's teaching, usually we read books or listen to someone's talking. So we study Dharma through language, and we think about what this means. And that is only method, only way we can study Dharma. But actually that is not really the Dharma. That is thinking or concept about the Dharma. So what I'm talking now is a concept about the highest value, the ultimate value. And he's saying ultimate value is something which is not thought, which is created in our head. So this is not so simple thing. So when we study, Buddhist teaching, and when we think we understand it, and we think that is true or reasonable, and about the practice, if we think it's a doable, then we have to practice, actually do it. Do something we do and something we think that is most important is really different. That is, when Buddha had awakening, first he thought it's not possible to teach because it's too subtle and profound. So he didn't want to teach in the beginning, but because of Indian God requested him, he decided to teach. But before he walked to the deer park to teach those 5 monks, he stayed at around the same place. He said he stayed there for about several weeks and keep sitting. And I think during that time, after he decided to teach, he was translating what he experienced to share that experience with those people. He need to use language. So he translated his experience to language expression. And when he taught those 5 monks, first he explained, and those 5 monks, it took about several weeks again. Buddha explained and practiced with them, and they understood what Buddha taught and what Buddha experienced. And after that, Shakyamuni continued to teach so many people for 40 years. And people memorized what he said, and people practice that teaching, and they experience the same thing what Buddha experienced, at least some people. But what he said, the language he used is recorded and became the sutras. And later, monks or people studied those sutras and interpret. That means to find what is the best way to understand what Buddha taught. So first we study Dharma with language, thinking. So we have to translate back to the original experience, what Buddha experienced. So these two sides is important, and we need to go back and forth. We practice, and by studying Dharma teaching, we understand what this practice means. And because of understanding, we can practice genuinely. So those two is important, and both are translated So we need to be careful about that point. You know, Uchiyama Roshi is saying, letting go of thought, not think. Highest value is not thinking, is not what is thought, but that is what he's saying. So we have to experience letting go of thought with our own body and mind. And that is our practice of the Zen. So we need to understand that difference between thinking and practicing or experience. And experience of letting go of thought, that is beyond thinking. And using Buddhist teachings, this is my understanding of what, you know, highest value is not what we think. I think this came from the Buddha's teaching of dependent origination and interdependent origination in Mahayana teaching. I don't have time to, you know, teach extensively about, you know, dependent origination and interdependent origination. It really throughout the entire history of Buddhist teaching. So I try to make most kind of simplified. That teaching is, in my understanding, 6 sense organs. That is our eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. Has 6 objects. And when our sense organs and object encounter, somehow we have 6 consciousness. That is eye consciousness, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind consciousnesses. These 6 sense organs and objects are called 12 sense field, and including 6 consciousnesses. These are called 18. What is it? 18 kai. Kai is, what is kai? 18 elements, I think. So what Buddha taught is, this is entirety of our life. There's nothing beyond this. And dependent origination teaching is when these two encounter each other, that is called contact. And based on the contact, we have, this is soku, and second is ju is, what is ju? Sensation. I'm sorry, I always forget words, especially English words. I know Japanese, but I have to think what is English translation. Anyway, sokuju, and in the teaching of dependent origination, next one is I. I is tanha in Sanskrit, and in English, craving. And shu is upadana. That is clinging. And another translation is preference. So when these two sense organs and object encounter, that is contact we have contact. And we have sensation. And depending upon the sensation, whether it's present or unpleasant or neutral, we have some emotions. I like this, or I hate that, or I don't care. Those are emotional reaction to those sensory objects. And we want to get something we like, or we want to escape, stay away from what we don't like. And we chase after something we want and escape from something we don't want or we don't like. That makes our life always running after something or escaping from something. And that is a basis of samsara. We transmigrate within samsara. This is one kind of a cause of dependent origination. But there is another thing happens after sensation. There's another version of teaching of dependent origination. That is, when we receive sensation, we think. In Japanese, thinking is jin and shi. And think, and by thinking, we have a so-called conceptual purification. I don't know this English, but in Sanskrit, this is prapancha. And in Japanese, this is ke-ron. Ke means idle, and ron is discussion. So by thinking, we create perceptions, and there are so many perceptions. We make distinction between all different things. And based on those perceptions, we have what is this? コモ分別 in Japanese. What is コモ分別 in English? False discrimination. False means not a reality itself, but fictitious. What we create within thinking and perceptions and discrimination. This is second side of Buddha's teaching of dependent origination. This side is emotional, like and dislike. And this side is thinking. We make decision what is right, what is wrong, what is important, what is not important, not based on like and dislike, but depend on concept. Those are two sides of what we do. When we have contact with something. And what Buddha taught is to see, these this function is actually function of 5 skandhas. As our body, that sense organ is a part of our body. And all other things are function of our mind. Sensation, perception, formation, these I and sure are formation. And consciousness. By using those things, we finally make what this is, make decision what this is. That is what the very basic teaching of Buddha's dependent origination. And what Buddha taught is, this is the basis of our life that create or make our life into samsara, always transmigrating. Sometimes we become happy like heavenly beings, and sometimes we are so miserable like hell dwellers. And because the situation is always changing, our life is always changing up and down. So if you believe, transmigration with life after life, that is okay. But if you don't believe transmigration, after, life after life, we can understand transmigration within samsara, within this lifetime, moment by moment, because our mind is based on encountering something which we cannot control. Therefore, something changes, we have to change, and our mind also changes. That is, I think, basically transmigration means. Anyway, so when we think, we are thinking within this system, and based on our clinging, or five skandhas, clinging themselves, and think this is me. And when our five skandhas in that way, that is called upadana five skandhas, upadana panchaskandha. And when our five skandhas are in that condition, that is called mara. That is what Buddha said in one Parinikaya. And when we see, these five skandhas, this working in this way is impermanent and suffering and danger. Shakyamuni said before he had awakening, when he was a bodhisattva, he understood that. But when he really actually experienced it, he said he was awakened. So that means five skandhas stop being the upadana five skandhas, or five skandhas of attachment. Then five skandhas are simply five skandhas. And five skandhas are empty. This is not expression used by Shakyamuni, but this is expression in Mahayana Buddhism we are very familiar with, such as the Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply prajna paramita, Avalokiteshvara see the emptiness of five skandhas. When we see this entire function is empty, then there's no way to cling to. So we open our hand. So this opening the hand of thought in our zazen is actually seeing the emptiness. If we see emptiness with our thinking mind, then emptiness becomes some kind of object. Then we are already within this system. Even the idea or concept of emptiness or idea of nirvana is part of this system, and it becomes something we want, like awakening or nirvana or enlightenment, become the object of this person's wish to gain that thing as an object. Then even Buddha's teaching become a part of this system of samsara. That is why Uchiyama Roshi is saying this opening the hand of thought is itself seeing emptiness. That is prajna. Prajna is not a kind of way our brain works. But prajna is seeing what our brain is doing is not really true, real reality. That is what we open our hand means. And I think that is the teaching of dependent origination by Shakyamuni Buddha and continue to Mahayana teaching. And that is what Dogen Zenji taught and Uchiyama Roshi is saying here. That means letting go of thought does not mean we stop this system or this activities. You know, it's not possible. Sometimes we think to practice Zazen, the purpose or goal of practicing meditation of Zazen is to stop this completely. Then our mind becomes really blank. No thought coming. But that is not our practice, at least. When we are sitting, we simply opening the hand of thought. That means those things are still happening. That is the important thing. Those things are still happening in our mind, but we don't think. Thoughts are coming and going, but if we don't grasp those thoughts as object, then this is not my thinking, or I am not thinking. This is simply what is happening in our mind. And when we keep in this way, that means we keep this letting go. That is prajna. That is the way we see emptiness. If we think now I see emptiness, then that is not real emptiness. It's already the concept of emptiness. So emptiness is simply, or prajna, or our emptiness is something we can practice, or within our practice it appears. It's not something I can do. If I try to do, then we are already within this system. So what we do in our Zazen is keep letting go. But too often we grasp. And the thought coming and going became the object. When we find, I'm thinking about this thinking, or idea, or memory, or something as the object of my thinking. So in that case, our mind is separate in two sides. And that side is object, and this side is subject. Even we sit facing the wall, still within our mind is divided into two sides. And one side becomes subject, and the other side becomes object, and we interact. When we find we are doing such a thing, we let go, stop doing it, and return to just sitting. This return to just sitting, that is opening the hand of thought, is a prajna and is seeing emptiness. And when we continue to practice in that way, there is another side of teaching of interdependent origination. That is as a Sanskrit, dependent origination and interdependent origination is the same word. But in Mahayana teaching, in English, we call it interdependence, not a dependence. Dependence means, well, I don't have time to talk about that. That means when we continue to practice this way, we find, when we are sitting, we can sit because our body is supported by the floor, and that is supported by the ground, this entire earth. And we can breathe the air. Air is there, and we see the wall, and we hear the sound of birds singing, or the sound of raining. So we are really, our five skandhas are really open. We don't close. That means even something happening in our mind has something to do with this entirety of everything existing within the Indra's net, and we are part of it. So in that sense, there's no such one person as an independent entity. Even our ego-centered, self-centered idea is possible. I can have any ego-centered idea because we are supported by all beings. So that is another side of dependent or interdependent origination. We are supported by all beings. That is why I can exist as an individual person. So what Uchiyama Roshi is saying here is the Dharma is not what we think, but Dharma is this entirety of interconnectedness in which we can be even ego-centered. So what he's saying is this interconnectedness or this network of interdependent origination is highest value. And what we think most important is a kind of a reflection of how we are. That's why we can let go. If we let go, we don't disappear. And when we continue to sit in that way, we understand, we don't need to follow what we think. Usually, because this is my thinking, this should be right, and this should be done, this should be practiced. Then we can get something good within that system. That is, we think that is highest value. And if we study this kind of teaching, then this becomes highest value within our thinking. But thinking, this interdependent origination is most important or variable. It's still thinking. So we have to really do it or practice it. That is what Uchiyama Roshi is talking about. When he said opening the hand of thought is itself what is most valuable. So our practice of letting go of thought, opening the hand of thought, means we become simply part of this interconnectedness, is most valuable. So, you have been practicing Zazen for 5 days. We don't think that is the highest value, most valuable thing. We are just, sitting with pain or sleepiness or many, daydreaming. So we don't think, what is happening in our mind during session is highest value. But the main point is what is happening in our mind. The main point, the most important point, essential point of our zazen or sesshin is not about condition of our mind getting better or desirable. But whatever condition, we have to go through it. Important point is we not understanding, not simply understanding within our thinking mind, but we learn from our experience that our delusion is produced within this interconnectedness. And even we let go of some thing we think important, it doesn't matter. That is what he's saying. This is the meaning of practicing Buddha Dharma only for the sake of Buddha Dharma, not to reach some goal, but we settle down here and now. And next paragraph. There are too many teachers who don't make any effort to transmit the Buddha Dharma only for the sake of Buddha Dharma. This is said more than 50 years ago, right? 1975. It is more than 50, almost 50 years ago. So the condition is changing, different. But when when he give this talk, in Japan and probably in America also, there was something called Zen boom. And many people are interested in Zen. And Zen and something is connected. And people think Zen, if we practice Zen or Zazen, then this something is, how can I say, is attainable. Even today, many people think Zen is a kind of a therapy, at least useful as a therapy, and that is fine. And our meditation practice in Buddhist tradition can be used for some to help help people who are in difficulties. It's to me, it's really okay to use meditation, so-called meditation technique, to help those people restore the psychological or physical health. But that is not the point of our Zazen practice. we need to understand that point, at least according to Dogen and Uchiyama Roshi. But I think it is true that if there's no bite, like a carrot for a horse, it's really difficult to start to run, to take some actions. So from the very beginning of Buddhist history, there are some way, this teaching and practice can be useful for something, and that is called skillful means. From the very beginning, if it is said that it is good for nothing, that is what Sakiroshi always said, it's kind of difficult to find the motivation to do it. Even Sakiroshi thought that it is good for nothing entire his life. Somehow his personality was very attractive to so many people. So even though Sakiroshi said that it is good for nothing, but this is what Uchiyama Roshi said. Many people, many of Sakiroshi's students thought they could be like Sakiroshi if they practice this good for nothing Zazen. And but those people, when Sakiroshi passed away, those people stopped to practice. That is really important point. Uchiyama Roshi was very different from Sakiroshi's. Sakiroshi was very strong and charismatic and a very attractive person. But Uchiyama Roshi was very intellectual and physically very weak and very gentle person. So it's very different from Sakiroshi's image. Then the master or then teacher as a people's image, very strong and charismatic. So many people stopped coming to Antaiji when Uchiyama Roshi became the abbot. But he continued to practice in that way, good for nothing. So then that was what Uchiyama Roshi transmitted from Sakiroshi. So we need to be careful that we need some kind of carrot to practice, to start to practice. But it's also important to keep reading this kind of teaching. That is not the point. Then sooner or later we find, our motivation to practice is the problem. So he continued. They attract people by dangling some attractive carrot in front of them, and then claim that by practicing Zazen, you can acquire great powers. But Uchiyama Roshi said that is not true Zazen. No matter how hard you practice it, if you practice because of your expectation to gain something, then that is not true Zazen. True Zazen is not practiced for the sake of some value promoted by desires. So if we practice Zazen within this system, then our Zazen practice becomes part of samsara. And we become disappointed because we cannot gain what we expected, and many people stop doing it. So true Zazen, anything our discriminating mind, that is this system, of thinking. Anything our discriminating mind believe to be valuable is not of absolute value. Within this system, everything is relative. But absolute truth or reality is this entirety in which we are living with our thinking mind. So our practice is not killing this thinking mind, but we see what we think is not reality itself. So letting go, opening the hand of thought is the reality of life. This is reality of life. And it is that reality of life which should be most valuable to us. So actually this is not really a value, but our value system is based on this reality. So we cannot value this reality itself because this cannot be the object. We are be born, live, and die within this reality. Next paragraph. In Paul's letter to the Romans, this is from the Bible. Let God be true, though every man be false. Every man means what we think within this function of five skandhas. Maybe false is not the right word. This is fiction, fictitious thing. But Buddha, when Uchiyama Roshi used this word, the Christian word, God, he referred to this entirety. Same thing as Indra's net. But he said, a lot of people get very uncomfortable when I quote anything from the Bible. But important sayings are important, and this one is certainly true. People who came to Antaiji to practice, many Americans and Europeans, started to study and practice Zen or Buddhism because they didn't like Christianity. So when Uchiyama Roshi quotes, Christian concept, Christian sayings, they don't like it. But later, so-called interreligious dialogue become popular, and so not so many people had resistance so much. But in the beginning, 50 years ago, people didn't like what Buddhist teaching and Christian doctrine are the same thing. But because Uchiyama Roshi studied Western philosophy when he was a university student, and also studied Catholic theology, he found there is something common in both religions. And I'm not sure that is correct from Christian point of view. But anyway, he said, Buddhist teaching and Christian teaching are the material, both are material for him to study the self. So he said he didn't become really a Buddhist, and he didn't want to become a Christian. What he wanted to study the self. So when he became old, after retired, he said, now I am not a Buddhist, neither Buddhist nor Christian. I'm who I am, that's all. Anyway, in reference to our practice, everything we make up in our head So something happening within this function of 5 skandhas is false or fictitious. Opening the hand of thought, letting go of thought, should be our standard of absolute value. We should respect the Buddha Dharma of letting go of thought as being most valuable. So this practice is most valuable. So it is important not to practice for the sake of sentimental emotions. That is the function of 5 skandhas as an emotional side, and worldly ideas is a kind of thinking. What is right, what is wrong, what is valuable, not valuable. This is what I have to say about these 3 paragraphs. Last month, I visited Bogota, Colombia, to attend Densho's mountain seat ceremony. Densho is one of my disciples and Dharma heir. He has been practicing, I think, since he was since his early 20s, so, and he is around 60, so he has been practicing for 40 years. And then in Colombia, it's really something new. So he has been making effort to establish a sangha and a temple. And finally, after many years of practice and hard work, he established his own temple, and he was ready to make the temple official Soto Zen temple, like Sanshin. And to do so, he needs to do a mountain seat ceremony. When I go there, I wanted to give some gift for Densho and his sangha, and I found a kind of a plate, what they call that, not plate using for eating, but a plate, black, yeah, kind of a decorative plate on which Shohaku Roshi's calligraphy and painting. I don't know how they made it printed, and that Shohaku Roshi's calligraphy is same as this one. This is my first translation of the Zen teaching of Homeless Kodo. And this is a scarecrow. And Shohaku Roshi made a calligraphy of one of Dogen Zenji's poems. And that black plate was made by Uchiyama Roshi on Shohaku Roshi's first anniversary. Shohaku Roshi died in December 1965. And after his death, Uchiyama Roshi didn't have funeral ceremony, but he had 49-day sesshin. And after that, he started, 5-day sesshin. That's the format of sesshin we still do. And for the first anniversary, so December 1966, he had, I'm not sure if he had a ceremony or not, but he had a gathering for Shohaku Roshi's first anniversary. And on that occasion, Uchiyama Roshi made that plate as a kind of a commemorative gift to people who attended. And one of the lay person attended that gathering, received that plate. And he was from Fukuoka. He was a professor at, I think, Kyushu University. And one of my disciples, Isan, practiced at a temple in Fukuoka named Myokoji. The abbot of Myokoji was, I think, among people I know, the abbot of Myokoji was the last person, still alive, was still alive when Isan practiced. And the professor came to Myokoji to practice. And actually, the abbot, Honda Roshi, passed away, I think, a few months ago. So anyway, so when Isan finished practice at Myokoji and returned to this country, the professor gave this plate to Isan. Because, the professor kept that plate for about 50 years. But he said he thought he is aging and his family are not interested in this kind of thing at all. So he wanted to give that plate to someone for him this is important. And when Isan returned to America, he gave this plate to Isan. And Isan thought this is right things to keep at Sanshinji, so he gave the plate to me. But here we have something about Uchiyama Roshi and Shohaku Roshi. So I thought, the plate is kind of right things to as a gift to Densho and his Sangha. That's why I took the plate and gave it to Densho. And after the ceremony, we had a kind of a gathering in which the member of the Sangha gave me questions. Beginning of question and answer, I talk about the plate, the history of the plate, and also the meaning of this waka poem by Dogen Zenji. The title of this waka poem is Zazen. And the poem is by Dogen Zenji, and it's a part of this book, Dogen's Shobogenzo Zuimonki. And this is kind of Zuimonki and Dogen's waka poems together as one book. Where is it? If you want to check this book, this is page 314, the waka number 16. The version Shohaku Roshi wrote and the version I translated are little tiny different based on that text. But in this book, the waka is Mamoru tomo oboezu nagara oyamada no itazura naranu kagashi nari keri. Translation in this book is, even without knowing he protects rice. The scarecrow is the mountains in the mountains small paddy, doesn't exist in vain. even without knowing he protect rice. The scarecrow in the mountain's small paddy doesn't exist in vain. So this painting is scarecrow, and scarecrow in Japan looks like a monk. You know, in the autumn, when the rice is ready to be harvested, you know, many birds came to eat. So they put a scarecrow. Scarecrow in Japanese is kagashi. And the Japanese kagashi is often made like with bamboo, like this, and put a bamboo hat on the top, and put what do they call? This is I forget the word. This is a kind of cape or like a raincoat made of rice straw. Thank you. This is a really simple word, straw. So this is like a straw raincoat. That's all. So this looks like a traveling monk who is wearing the koromo and bamboo hat. So Dogen Zenji writing the poem about scarecrow in the rice paddy. You know, scarecrow has no intention to protect the rice. He is just standing. But somehow, birds think, I don't know if bird has thinking or not, but think there is a people. So birds don't come to eat rice. And this is, according to the poem, this is a tiny rice paddy in the deep remote mountains. So no one is watching. But this scarecrow is just standing, even without thinking that I have to stand to protect the rice. But he was just standing without thinking, still this functions. And that is one of the meaning of Zazen that is good for nothing. You know, standing this way, practicing this way is good for nothing for a scarecrow. But somehow, you know, as a whole, it works. And scarecrow doesn't kill the birds. And birds can eat some rices, but not completely, not be harmful. So nothing is harmed, but somehow rice is there to harvest for farmers. So this is another meaning of good for nothing Zazen. And finally, at the end of my talk, I asked them, you know, this scarecrow doesn't think even to protect. But somehow we need to protect this Zazen. Zazen doesn't protect anything, but if we are careless, somehow we use this Zazen as a kind of, what is the word? Commercial goods for selling something and to gain something. So it's important, to practice this good for nothing zazen. But it's also important to protect this good for nothing zazen. That is what I said to Densho's Sangha. So I also want to ask people in this Sangha that to keep this good for nothing zazen. I'm sorry, it's already 11:25. Are we going to have the ceremony? Okay, then probably it's too late to have a question and answer, but do you have any comment or question? Short one, please.
You can also ask me during tea time.
Okay. Okay, thank you for listening.